Hello, welcome back to the breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you are watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got a ton of huge news to share with you today. So today's date is March 14th, 2025, and it's Friday. Hope you all are getting ready for a great start to your weekend, and maybe some of you might be having spring break this week, so maybe some of you might be heading out to vacation or travel around the world, and if you do, definitely try to stay safe and have fun out there. So, welcome back to the channel, guys. Lots of big news to cover today. So, we're going to talk about drone sanctions once again coming from Ukraine. As last night, you can see here on your screen, Ukraine strikes a Russian oil refinery in Tuapse, oil storage tank destroyed. So, this is in Tuapse, Russia, in southwestern Russia in the Krasnodar Krai region. And it says here on your screen a drone attack on the Tuapse oil refinery ignited a fuel tank, causing a fire that spread to over 1,000 square meters, according to Governor Veniamin Kondratiev. If I'm saying his name right, a little hard to pronounce, but we've got this video footage coming out from Tuapse last night, and I've got so many videos I can show you guys and pictures today of this oil storage tank that was directly hit and destroyed last night, and also some information that potentially either Palinitsia or Peklo missile drones were maybe used. Some sort of missile, it looks like, struck this facility, not necessarily your standard propeller-driven drone. So I've got video footage coming out, possibly indicating that a missile was used last night to strike this thing. So the Tuapse oil refinery has been hit before, and it looks like it got hit once again. So major damage, and this is a Rosneft facility that has direct connection to Vladimir Putin also, and this does fund the war effort inside of Ukraine. Okay, so we'll talk about that. Also reports today that in Nizhny Novgorod we had a training ground or facility for Russia's military that was also attacked by a drone. I've got some crazy video footage coming out from there. Saratov region being attacked, that's around the same area as Nizhny Novgorod, probably about 800 kilometers into Russia. Also, Moscow seeing some drones visiting over there last night, okay? Even though Moscow is heavily defended by air defense systems, we still had drones entering into Moscow and crashing not too far away from the Kremlin, okay? There's a route apparently that Vladimir Putin uses to travel to the Kremlin with his motorcade, and one of these drones happened to crash land and blow up somewhere very close to one of the routes that he takes, okay? So we'll talk about all those details today. Also, lots of huge news coming out from this war and big news on Ukraine. So let's go ahead and jump into this, guys. We're going to hop on over here to X. With Igor Sushko, Russia-Ukrainian drones struck the Tuapse oil refinery in Krasnodar Krai. So here's some video footage coming out today. This video does not have any sound, so no point playing the sound here. But we can see a massive fire coming from this facility today. As last night, Ukrainian drones visited here, striking this facility. We can see one of these oil storage tanks on fire. We've got more videos for you here also from Max24. Sanctions and Tuapse, okay? We've got a 9-second clip showing this thing on fire. Take a look at this.
Чтобы вы понимали, даже сюда жарко.
All right, pretty major fire here at this facility, and we'll see if maybe more of these oil storage tanks catch on fire. A lot of times we do see this. If one of them catch flame, within a day or two later, 2, 3, 4, or more start to go up in smoke as well. So it does look like these oil storage tanks are pretty far away from each other, so maybe this fire might not catch on to the other ones, but we'll follow that closely, and if we get more information, I'll let you guys know if this thing spreads. All right, now from Max24, Tuapse oil refinery is probably attacked by Palinitsia or Peklo missile drones. Okay, so this video is going to indicate that some sort of missile or rocket drone was used to strike this facility. If you listen really closely, I've turned up the sound as high as I possibly can for you guys so you can hear. It sounds like some sort of missile coming in versus a standard propeller-driven drone. Okay, so take a look at this. We're not going to watch the whole thing. Just kind of the beginning of it is all you need to see. Take a look. Okay, we'll go ahead and pause there. So in the very beginning, you could kind of hear that rocket engine coming in. You don't really hear that propeller-driven drone coming in to strike this facility. It sounds like more like a missile hit it. So not really sure what type of munitions was being used. Could have been Palinitsia, could have been Peklo. We never know. Maybe even the Trembita missile that Ukraine recently unveiled, and they're going to be starting to use onto Russia very soon. So it could have been a lot of different munitions that were used here. Maybe it was Neptune. Who knows? Now for Max 24, meanwhile, things are getting more fun in Tuapse. Okay, so we've got another video here, 14 seconds long, showing this thing on fire even during the day today. Take a look. All right, so it looks like more heavy losses for the Russians and more damage to this oil refinery once again, as this oil tank is probably going to burn out completely and maybe spread to other tanks. So we'll see what happens there. Okay, so more damage to Russia's economy in terms of their oil refineries. Here's a picture now from Max 24 showing the fire coming from this facility there in the background. You can see definitely a major fire here. Here's another one from Mira of Kiev. Another Russian oil refinery has been sanctioned. Okay, take a look at this photo. This is actually a really good picture. It's so clear, and definitely one of the clearest photos we've ever seen of an oil refinery on fire. So you can see this entire top of this oil storage tank just completely burned out, and a huge flame coming out of it. So pretty cool photo right there. Now from Anton Yeroshenko, military training ground in Molino, Nizhny Novgorod region of Russia was attacked by a drone, Russian Telegram channels report. The training ground combines traditional training with computer technologies. It can train up to 30,000 people a year, as well as up to 700 soldiers at any point in time. Okay, so Nizhny Novgorod, probably about 800 to 1,000 kilometers roughly into Russian territories, where we had this drone entering and striking one of the barracks over here. Take a look at this. So looks like we got a direct hit over here on one of these barracks at this training camp. And this does look like one of the Liudi drones that Ukraine uses. And a lot of times the drones that we do see entering this deep into Russian territory, it's usually this same type of drone. So pretty crazy video coming out from there, showing a strike on that barracks there. Now from Max 24 again, a Saratov planned carpet introduced at the airport. Reported 15 UAVs in the direction of Angles. Okay, so Angles Air Base most likely being attacked last night, or maybe it was that oil depot that's located nearby there also. But Saratov had some alarms going off over here, air raid alarms, as lots of drones were entering over here. So it looks like at least 15 UAVs heading this direction. Take a look at this video. All right, so a lot of regions inside of Russia clearly being attacked last night. We don't have any explosions in this video to show you guys, but you can see these air raid alarms going off in Saratov, and this is probably about 800 kilometers deep into Russia also. And this whole carpet plan is usually when they shut down all the airports, all across Saratov, just to protect the airports as they could be attacked. So now from Anton Yeroshenko, Russian media report a drone attack on Moscow this morning. Reportedly, a drone fell very close to the route Putin usually takes to the Kremlin. Drone attacks on Russia are becoming increasingly more frequent and massive. Turns out even the most air defense dense Moscow and Moscow region are not fully protected by air defense. Oil depots and refineries are also not protected well. They are hit almost daily. There are grounds to believe that it's not just an increase in the number of drones, but also using drones of new types, including missile drones. Okay, so over time, if you really think about this, the longer this war continues on and Ukraine continues to innovate with their drone industry, they've got all these missile drones now. At some point, Moscow is going to start getting attacked a lot more often, similar to what we see happening inside of Kiev. And then think about ballistic missiles that Ukraine is producing. So, just over time, the more this war drags on, and if Russia does not take over Ukraine, Ukraine's going to get more powerful militarily, and we're going to see more strikes in Moscow, which we're really starting to see that lately over the last week. So let's take a look at this video real quick. Okay, this is a really fast video, but just right when you hear the explosion, you can see like a flash right here, right on this building. So I'm not sure exactly where this drone exploded at. I almost wondered if it hit that building for a second. I don't think it did. but we did have some explosions over here. And as you can see, very close to this street, okay? And this is apparently one of the roads that that Vladimir Putin could be traveling on, okay? So this kind of shows either the route of this incoming drone or the route that Vladimir Putin takes to go to the Kremlin, okay? So right in the center of Moscow, we have a drone striking over there, and this is where Russia's got lots of air defense systems set up, and even though they do, still we've got drones entering over here, okay? So not completely protected by the Russians. Now from Liskovka, Russia's attacked the hospital in Zoloshiv twice, reports Kharkiv Regional Military Administration. The first strike caused a fire on the roof, and less than an hour later, there was a second attack. Patients were not injured and were evacuated. One medical worker suffered a stress reaction. Okay, so it looks like we have another hospital inside of Kharkiv that was being attacked, and we've been seeing so much of this inside of Kharkiv. I mean, just in Ukraine in general, lots of hospitals being destroyed all over the place, and it seems like Russia's doing this on purpose. So we can see a massive fire here on the top of this building after it was attacked. So not really sure what exactly was used to strike here in Kharkiv, but we can see a huge hole here on the side. So I'm not sure if it was some sort of missile or not really 100% on what munition they used here, but we can see lots of damage here to this hospital, and it caught on fire. So very sad to see that. Now from Bliskovka, reports about the alleged encirclement of Ukrainian units in the Kursk region are not true, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Such stuffing is created by Russians for political purposes and to put pressure on Ukraine and its partners. Units of the Ukrainian Defense Forces have regrouped, moved to more favorable defense lines, and are performing their assigned tasks in the Kursk region, the General Staff said. Okay, so we heard this yesterday from Oleksandr Syrsky, that Ukraine is not completely pulling out yet. Yes, they have had to retreat a little bit, but from what we understand, they haven't really pulled out. But I'm seeing a lot more indication today that maybe they have. It's really hard to tell what's going on the ground over there inside the Kursk region, but the only thing that we know for sure is that Ukraine has had to retreat a little bit. So I've got a few things to show you guys here. This is from More Translated. Russian fighter apparently participating in the battles near Sutsa in Russia's Kursk Oblast disclosed that their command has inexplicably barred them from targeting Ukrainian forces during their withdrawal. Okay, so we keep hearing that they are withdrawing, at least partially, right? And this Russian soldier is going to basically say that his higher command was telling him, and maybe other soldiers part of his unit, that they were not able to engage on the Ukrainians as they were withdrawing. So it looks like if this was the case and Ukraine is starting to withdraw from the Kursk region, it looks like some sort of deal was set up to protect the Ukrainian soldiers as they pull out. So take a look at this.
Короче, суд же взяли. Пидоры нахуй вываливаются, блядь, сказали не трогать нахуй. Пусть типа по полям аккуратно выходят они. Ну там их 1008-10, блядь. Я, блядь, просто охуеваю с этой войны опять, блядь. Денежная хуйня, блядь. Мы везде их достаем, нахуй, можем долбить, нахуй, как долбилку, блядь. И градами, и дронами, нахуй. А говорят, нахуй, не стреляйте, пусть выходят. Сваливают себе. Охуенно. Короче, суд же взяли.
Okay, so let me know what you guys think about that. Why do you think the Russians would not be, or be told not to engage with the Ukrainians and fire upon them as they're trying to retreat? I mean, 8 to 10,000 soldiers, and they're just letting them freely walk away and head back into Ukraine if that happens to be the case. But take a look at this also. This came out from Trump today. From Michael McKay, Ukrainian troops are not surrounded anywhere on the battlefront. Trump is a liar serving the interests of the Russian invaders. Okay, so he posted a picture here, a screenshot of Donald Trump putting a post on True Social today. So take a look at this. We had very good and productive discussions, with President Vladimir Putin of Russia yesterday. There's a very good chance that this horrible bloody war can finally come to an end. But at this very moment, thousands of Ukrainian troops are completely surrounded by the Russian military and in a very bad, vulnerable position. I have strongly requested to President Putin that their lives be spared. This would be a horrible massacre, one not seen since World War II. God bless them all. So it looks like he could be talking about what's happening in the Kursk region. I mean, as far as I know, that's the only area that we've really been hearing about encirclement. So then we have the general staff coming out today and saying that the troops over there are not encircled. So I'm not sure what's going on over here. Maybe this is some sort of battle or control for information, but it's really hard to tell what's happening inside of Kursk. But for the most part, it sounds like Ukraine could potentially be pulling out altogether. But then on the Ukrainian side, we're hearing that they're still fighting over there. If anything, they just retreated a little bit, but they're not completely out of the Kursk region and still carrying out operations. But let me know what you guys think on that with those details. Now for Bliskovka, the Russian armed forces have become more active. Russia-backed subversive groups are trying to enter Sumy region almost along the entire border, reports the head of Sumy Regional Military Administration. Okay, this is something we've been hearing for almost a week now, that in the Sumy region along the border here of Kursk, apparently mainly in Kursk region, the Russians are trying to push through the border into Sumy. Now, this is the reason why Ukraine also launched this offensive into Kursk, was not only to pull Russian troops off the eastern side to alleviate pressure over there, but also to prevent another incursion up here in the northern side, like into the Sumy region. So, yeah, now that the Ukrainian soldiers potentially at least partially withdrawing for right now, now the Russians are starting to try to push into the Sumy region. So this could get really bad for Ukraine, and this is exactly what they were trying to prevent previously. So things are just rapidly changing over here near this border of the Kursk region and Sumy. So we'll continue to monitor that. If we get more information, I'll share that with you guys later. Now for PS01, Kursk is completely destroyed by the Russian army. When Ukraine invaded, all infrastructure remained practically intact. Except razing everything to the ground, they're incapable of fighting. Okay, so this was a new video that came out yesterday that I wanted to show you guys from the Kursk region in Suds, I believe, the stronghold there that Ukraine was holding on to. And you're going to see just massive destruction over here. This is how crazy this war was over here. Take a look at this. All right, so just a quick clip, but if you guys remember back in August when I first reported that Ukraine was moving into the Kursk region, we had lots of videos coming out where these towns over here were just basically untouched. Okay, there was really no heavy fighting. There was a few homes that were destroyed here and there, but for the most part, many of the major buildings still intact. And now look at this. Looks like right in the center of the town, all these businesses and buildings just completely wiped out from the recent battles over here. So clearly was a very big engagement between Ukraine and Russia. Now moving on to Vicegrad 24, breaking. Spiegel reports that the incoming German Chancellor Friedrich Merz is about to announce the transfer of German Taurus cruise missiles to Ukraine. Taurus has a larger warhead and longer range, 500 kilogram and 500 plus kilometer, than the UK French Storm Shadow cruise missiles used by Ukraine. Okay, this is very big, and this is exactly what we knew was coming at some point, and it came a lot faster than I expected it to. So Friedrich Merz, incoming German Chancellor, okay, we're going to be hearing very soon that he's going to be sending Taurus missiles to Ukraine. This was something that was held back by Germany for a very long time from Olaf Scholz, the former, well, soon-to-be former Chancellor. And yeah, very big news, guys. They're going to be getting these Taurus missiles very soon, and they can start launching these into Russia. And I'm very curious what they'll use these for to strike targets over there, okay? So big news for Ukraine. Now from Ozen Defender, according to Reuters, the United States is preparing to resume the shipment of ground-launched small-diameter bombs, or GLSDB, to Ukraine following recent upgrades to better counter-jamming systems used by the Russian armed forces. As they have already arrived in Europe, the upgraded variant of the GLSDBs could arrive on the battlefield in eastern Ukraine in the coming days, able to be launched from both the M270 Multiple Launch Rocket System, or MLRS, and the M142 High Mobility Artillery Rocket Systems, HIMARS. Okay, so HIMARS and MLRS are going to be able to launch these into Russia. So these ground-launched small-diameter bombs, okay? So this was a big report coming out yesterday, actually, that I wanted to share with you guys. This came out after our update was released yesterday. So yeah, looks like more munitions going to Ukraine here very soon as well that they can use to strike targets in Russia also. Now for Max 24, the U.S. is eager to quickly pull off a deal on peace in Ukraine, but hawks in the Kremlin believe that Moscow should not rush too much to hold a meeting between Putin and Trump, the Moscow Times reports. The range of possible dates is the end of April, around Easter, the beginning of June, before the summer holidays. Okay, so this looks like this is going to drag out. In terms of Russia agreeing to any kind of like temporary ceasefire or anything like that, it's looking more likely to me every day that it's going to be dragged out at least another month, maybe longer. And yeah, this is exactly what I showed you guys yesterday. We had Zelensky coming out saying that Putin was either going to refuse this ceasefire deal outright completely, or at least at the bare minimum, try to drag this out as long as he possibly can. Because, if you think about what's happening inside the war right now, if Ukraine completely pulls out of Kursk, this will give those Russian soldiers that were currently fighting in Kursk the ability to now head over to the eastern side of Ukraine, or maybe conduct some operations inside of Sumy, put more pressure onto Ukrainian soldiers. And this war will continue, and Russia could possibly gain more territory. Okay, so this is not good for news for Ukraine if this war continues to drag out, I guess. But at the same time, if they've got to continue to fight on, that's what they've got to do. They got to wait for Russia to respond to the ceasefire deal, and it's looking highly likely it's going to be delayed, if not completely refused. Now for military news, Ukrainian military tests strike drone equipped with unguided air missiles. Okay, so wanted to show you guys this real quick. I can't show you the sound, unfortunately, because it just basically has music. We can't play music here on YouTube, but we can see this new type of drone that Ukraine is testing. And look, it launches some sort of projectile or missile. So pretty crazy. We see that Ukraine is just producing so many different types of drones. I mean, we've even seen some in the past where they would attach like an RPG to some of these. So it looks like they've created a more advanced version of that can fire unguided air missiles. Okay, so that's pretty crazy news now. All right, from the Ukrainian Review, the EU could double its military aid to Ukraine in 2025, potentially reaching 40 billion euros, Reuters reports. The plan includes initial commitment to provide Ukraine with 2 million artillery shells this year. All right, so artillery shells going to Ukraine, 2 million in total at least, and also up to 40 billion in funding for military aid to Ukraine coming from the EU, potentially just this year. We've been hearing that, maybe even hundreds of billions. We've heard as high as 700 billion coming from Germany, from Annalena Baerbock, the foreign minister. So yeah, more support coming from the EU, and we're going to be hearing about a lot of aid packages this year from Europe. Now for Max 24, again, he shows us a screenshot of Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, and she says the EU increases pressure on Russia. We extend our sanctions on nearly 2,400 individuals and entities over Russia's ongoing aggression against Ukraine, including travel bans, asset freezes, ban on funding and resources. Our determination to support Ukraine is decisive. Okay, so we can see here the EU coming out with more sanctions to slam onto Russia. This was being announced just today, okay? So very big news coming from the EU, and lots of sanctions over the last 24 hours have been reported. Here's one from the U.S. now. From Anton Gerashenko, President Trump's administration further restricts Russian access to U.S. payment systems. In January, President Biden's administration put a 60-day exemption in place that allowed certain energy transactions from sanctioned Russian banks to continue. This waiver has lapsed now, so the Russian banks can no longer access U.S. payment systems to conduct major energy transactions. This will make it harder for other countries to buy Russian oil. Okay, so yeah, any foreign nations that want to buy Russian oil, it's going to make it very difficult for them to do business with Russia if Russia cannot access U.S. banking systems. Okay, so more sanctions and restrictions being put onto Russia, targeting their oil, gas, and banking sectors today. Now from next to Russia's crypto lifeline, dodging sanctions with digital cash. Moscow's using cryptocurrency to bypass Western sanctions, just like Iran and Venezuela did before it. Reuters reports Russia channels crypto payments through China and India for oil trade. Alternative methods include UAE dirhams, if I'm saying that right, and local currency swaps. Even if sanctions are lifted, crypto's here to stay. It's fast, discreet, and hard to trace. Okay, so this was reported by Reuters just today, that Russia's using cryptocurrency. I'm sure that's not a big surprise to a lot of people. I mean, Russia's been able to evade a lot of sanctions. I'm sure they are using cryptocurrency a lot, as Russia's even cut off from like the SWIFT banking system and all that. And then even with these more of these sanctions from the U.S. being put on them today, it's making it even more difficult for them to do business with cash using U.S. payment systems. So yeah, we're going to see Russia moving towards cryptocurrency even more, trying to do deals with other countries, okay? So that's going to allow them to continuously evade sanctions from the West. Now from Bliskovka, the U.S. intelligence has reported that Russia still wants to conquer Ukraine. However, it is unknown whether these reports have reached Trump, Washington Post writes. American intelligence is already doubting that Putin is ready to end the war. Such an assessment of Kremlin's leaders' intransigence irritates Trump, excuse me, which is why he has also started talking about new tough sanctions. At the same time, according to European intelligence, the Kremlin considers Trump weak, open to manipulation, and is trying to use this to its advantage. So yeah, I wonder if maybe we heard something from the Kremlin, or maybe Vladimir Putin told Trump something over the last 24, 48 hours, maybe letting him know that he's not ready to end this war yet. Maybe that's why we're seeing these sanctions being put on Russia today. Who really knows? Looks like there's probably a lot of big talks going on in the background behind the curtains here that we don't really know about. And maybe that's why we're seeing those sanctions today. But again, this is something I told you guys over the last day or so, that, expect this war to continue. I think maybe there's a high possibility that Putin's going to try to drag this out as long as he can, then maybe at the last second reject this ceasefire deal with Ukraine. This war might continue. And maybe Putin is trying to buy some time right now to try to make some strategic moves before he knows that the U.S. will come down and capitalize onto him, possibly slam more sanctions, rearm Ukraine. Who knows what's going to happen here? So that was a new report today. Now from the Ukrainian Review, Ukraine will not lift martial law and will not hold elections in the event of a 30-day ceasefire, according to Mikhailo Podolyak, who's a Ukrainian politician. He stressed that a short ceasefire does not mean the end of the war, and without security guarantees, it is impossible to organize an electoral process. I mean, that seems fair to me. During a ceasefire, we could see Russia possibly violate it. And if they violate the ceasefire, I think it'd be a bad idea to be doing elections during all that time. So they probably want to wait till the war completely comes to an end and there's security guarantees for Ukraine to make sure that Russia can't attack them ever again before they do that. I'm sure Ukraine's going to have a lot of their own demands before they even worry about holding elections inside their country. Okay, so that was a new update today. Also, now from the Ukrainian Review, G7 agrees on statement warning Russia of sanctions if it does not agree to truce, according to Sky News. In the statement, they reaffirmed their unwavering support for Ukraine in defending its territorial integrity and the right to exist, and its freedom, sovereignty, and independence. Okay, so the G7 nations also coming out warning Russia to start agreeing to a truce sometime soon, or maybe they're going to slam Russia with sanctions also. I mean, Russia's been hit by so many sanctions recently. I can't believe they're still able to fight this war, but somehow they're able to evade these sanctions and continue on and still fund this war at the same time, okay? Couple more updates before we get you out of here. This one from Bliskovka. Air Defense Forces of Ukraine destroyed 16 out of 27 Russian UAVs. 9 enemy imitator UAVs were lost locally without negative consequences. Okay, take a look at this, guys. Probably the least amount of Russian drones going into Ukraine, only 27. So pretty insane. I wonder why we only saw a few going into Ukraine last night. Now, yesterday, I did report to you guys, I think it was up in the Kaluga region of Russia, not too far away from Moscow. We had a massive drone warehouse over there in a production facility that was directly hit. So I wonder if that had anything to do with it. I mean, this is literally 24 hours later after that facility gets blown up. Now we don't see too many drones going into Ukraine anymore. So, I mean, I'm sure Russia does store a lot of these Shahed drones, and they have multiple facilities located across Russia. But I thought that was interesting that just yesterday we reported that a drone facility was destroyed. Now all of a sudden only 27 drones entering into Ukraine, when just recently we've been seeing 100 or more, sometimes upwards of 200. Now from the Kyiv Independent, these are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of March 14th, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Final update of the day, Russia's losses as of March 14th, 1,410 troops, 11 AFVs, 114 vehicles and fuel tanks, 6 tanks, 46 artillery systems, 153 UAVs, and it looks like that is it. So today looking like a lot more of an average number of equipment being destroyed on the Russian side. So 1,400 troops, a little bit more than we normally see, around 12 to 1,300 on average. 11 AFVs, about average as well. Vehicles and fuel tanks jumping back up over 100. Several times this last week, we saw 75, 60, 80, those kind of numbers like that. 6 tanks only today, but still a lot more than we've seen. We've seen sometimes only 1 or 2 just over the last day or so. And 46 artillery systems, quite a few artillery guns destroyed last night. So lots of huge news from today's update that I wanted to share with you guys. And just a few things we're going to continue to monitor is this Tuapse oil refinery If we hear that this fire spreaded to more tanks and got worse, maybe we hear that this Tuapse oil refinery gets shut down in the Krasnodar region, I'll give you guys another update. But the other big story that I really want to continue to follow is to see whether Russia is going to accept any kind of ceasefire deal with Ukraine. It's looking like right now it's going to be delayed, but maybe out of nowhere, maybe we'll hear Russia agreeing to something or at least wanting to make some sort of amendments to the deal. And who knows, it could take several more weeks for Russia and Ukraine to agree on anything, but we know right now we're mainly just waiting on Russia. So let me know what you guys think about all these details today, though, down in the comment section. That's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell, that way YouTube can notify you. With that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.